Hello and welcome to Cyberside Chats. My name is Sherri Davidoff. I'm the founder of LMG Security.
And my name is Matt Durrin. I am the Director of Training and Research for LMG Security.
And today we're talking about the fact that hackers are going after your Salesforce instance. In fact, just this summer, Google was investigating Salesforce breaches. And it turned out that while they were reporting on this, they themselves were getting hacked.
They were getting hacked.
By the same hackers.
Yes.
So that's like a deep irony. But just within the past week or two, we saw an announcement about this from Google. And it turns out it's not just Google that has been announcing Salesforce hacks. It was Louis Vuitton, Dior, Chanel, Allianz Life, Qantas. Qantas Airlines, UK Legal Aid. And while some of these are linked to extortion, it's not clear that it's the same group that's doing the hacking. Often the extortion is months after the fact.
Right. So for the most part, we see a lot of attribution to the shiny hunters, cybercrime group. Yeah. And they're very loosely based. I mean, they are not a very structured kind of cybercrime group. They tend to go after individual entities at a time, and they're just kind of attributed to the same kind of organization, if that makes sense.
Well, I think it's interesting that in Google's announcement, they kept talking about hackers using the Shiny Hunters brand.
Right.
But anyway, I think we're getting a little ahead of ourselves.
We'll get into that.
One really important thing to note is that this is not happening because of a vulnerability in the Salesforce platform.
Right, yeah.
It's happening because they're using simple social engineering tactics, voice phishing. They're stealing passwords and MFA codes. I mean, it's really the same type of thing we've been seeing year after year, but they're leveling up and they're getting better at it. Well,
it's interesting because we've seen a big uptick in the number of high-profile hacks that have happened because of something like voice phishing. Yeah. I mean, and not a super technologically advanced kind of attack or anything like that, but unfortunately, if it's done correctly, it's a very effective way of breaking into an organization. I mean, we saw it with like MGM.
I know, you were just giving me flashbacks because when we hear about these Salesforce hacks, it just takes me right back to MGM. These hackers are posing as IT support.
Right.
That is just like across the board a universal tactic that we're seeing. And they make a phone call. Mm-hmm. They're targeting people typically with some elevated access to Salesforce. So they're actually being smart about who they're targeting. They're looking at LinkedIn. They're looking at org charts. They're looking at roles.
Right.
They get them on the phone, and then they're directing them to a site that they've put up. And the site is typically designed to trick them into authorizing the installation of a connected app, right?
Sure. No, I mean, when we talk about the Salesforce stuff, I mean, they have a fake Okta portal set up, they have a fake Salesforce portal set up, and what they're getting them to do is similar to the consent phishing we used to see with Microsoft 365, they're getting them to authorize an API-based app that gives them access to the portal with like whatever user permissions that user tends to have. And in a lot of cases, they are, like normal, they are very over-provisioned, so they have access to way more than they should, and it allows the attackers to basically siphon the entire database out.
Yeah, in some cases, this is a modified version of the Salesforce Data Loader app.
Right.
And so once the user authorizes that access, it's designed to export data in bulk.
Yeah.
And in some cases, the hackers are starting off with like tiny little snippets of data. They're testing it out. In one of the cases that Google reported, they only managed to siphon off about 10% of the organization's records. But we've certainly seen in some of these breaches, like with Allianz Life, the insurance company, they got 2.8 million customer records. And unfortunately, these companies now have to deal with the results of a data breach, the reputational damage, the risk of lawsuits, all that stuff.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the interesting thing, though. I mean, the data that's being stolen from these companies through Salesforce in a lot of these cases isn't, and again, not a lawyer, but like in a lot of these cases, I mean, it's not something that actually constitutes a data breach. I mean, it's like name, email address, and like billing information. I mean,
it does. I think what we're getting at is the risk of harm. We just taught our data breaches class at Black Hat.
We did.
And I started off by saying, like, how many of you are worried about harm if your social security number gets stolen? And like nobody raised their hand.
Right. Yeah.
How many of you are worried about harm to your organization if you announce a breach of that? And like everybody raised their hand. Because even though your name, your email address, all this information might be out there, the fact that a company has to announce a breach means that there is damage to that company. And there may also be risk of harm to those people depending on other information that could be present in the Salesforce instance. But let's face it, in a lot of cases, this information is already out there.
I mean, that's true, but when you look at it like at scale, like what we're looking at here, I mean, you could take the information you pulled from like Qantas and Allianz Life and Google at the same time. I mean, that could be made into a very easy to identify data product that could be used for either spear phishing or something like that, because now you have all this information about someone, not necessarily their social, not necessarily a credit card number or anything like that, but you've got their name, their email, their phone number, like all the things that identify them. And it becomes a pretty valuable thing for a hacking group to have, especially if they're going after like an executive of a company or something like that.
Sure, absolutely. Well, Qantas is interesting because among the information stolen was frequent flyer number.
Yeah.
And, I'm like, what can you do with a frequent flyer number? It can definitely be helpful with phishing attacks. I wonder if there's a way to commit some kind of fraud. Could you get into their account? Could you transfer miles? Oh, you're right. Like someone could make a product, like a package with that information and sell it on the dark
it's
web.
like the Dunkin' Donuts hack. Like they could steal like my $22 worth of like credit into. I'm sorry, I'm still bitter about this to this day. But yeah, but no, it's something like that.
I want to apologize on behalf of the universe that your Dunkin' Donuts rewards credits were stolen. Can we move on, though?
We're not even talking about Krispy Kreme at this point.
Nope.
But like, no, well, we'll get into that. No, you're right, though. I mean, something like that, while it seems inconsequential, could lead to like a bigger compromise of data. And that's, I think that's the big problem with leaks like Salesforce and like Snowflake, as an example.
Yeah, well, where they were targeting corporate customer accounts.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, so what are the parallels you see with Snowflake?
Well, first and foremost, okay, so...
We should remind everybody what Snowflake was.
We should remind everyone. So first and foremost, the group that's been associated with the hacks of Salesforce at this point is the Shiny Hunters. Yep. And there seems to be honestly, a fairly direct correlation between them and Scattered Spider.
Just announced, actually.
Just announced, yeah.
But there's overlap between those two groups.
And those two groups have been attributed to things like the Snowflake hack.
So Snowflake is a data aggregation platform.
So yeah, Snowflake is a data aggregation platform. Companies upload their client data to it. It allows them to correlate, things like buying or spending habits and
huge volumes of data. And what was interesting, all these headlines came out, was it last year, that like Snowflake got hacked, but the platform itself did not get hacked. The criminals were targeting corporate customer accounts, and in a lot of cases, they didn't have MFA. I think there's some similarities here in that they're targeting corporate customer accounts. There's large volumes of data stored in there. The difference is that in this case, the criminals expect there to be MFA, so yay, we've made some progress, but they're finding ways to bypass it through social engineering. So using phishing-resistant MFA is really becoming more and more important.
Oh, huge, yeah.
I'm a little stressed out because MFA is not enough, and I know a lot of people out there have just finally gotten comfortable and gotten their organizations comfortable with MFA at all, and now we're like, sorry, that's not enough. You need MFA. You need phishing-resistant MFA.
I mean, we just talked to a client before we started this podcast where they were talking about how they just now implemented multi-factor on their remote access portal.
Right.
And we asked in the call, like, what kind of MFA is it? Is it SMS? Is it email? And we're like, oh no, it's email based.
Yeah.
And like, and it hurt my heart. Like it was a thing.
Yeah, because email, of course, is often hacked, and then you get that problem of everything relies on your email, and it's a big target.
Yeah.
No, but we are making progress. It's just the criminals are finding ways around it. So the thing to know about the Salesforce hack, though, is that Salesforce is a target. Talk to your team. Make sure your accounts are not over-provisioned, and expect hackers to go after it. I think a lot of people don't realize how sensitive the information is in Salesforce. And even if you don't think it's super sensitive, you may still have to announce a breach to your customers or your contacts in Salesforce if it gets hacked.
Sure. I mean, it's not just Salesforce. I mean, we've seen third-party applications hacked like time and time again where this kind of information gets out there. I mean, think like Blackbot or MoveIt or Excellion or any of those other hacks. Like, your information is out there. And if you're not protecting it with your third-party services, I mean, it's basically the same as not protecting it on your own servers. There's a problem there.
Yeah, look at those connected cloud apps. All right, so what are our key takeaways for this one?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, phishing-resistant MFA.
Dun-dun.
Like, no-brainer at this point.
What's your favorite kind of phishing-resistant MFA?
Okay, my favorite is the passkey. Yep. And the reason I love the passkey is because I hate passwords. I think they are one of the biggest security threats that we have out there.
Passwords are dead to me.
Oh God,
they are a threat.
They are a threat.
They're a threat because people think that they're secure with a password and they're not.
And they're not. So use a passkey. It relies on the magic of public-private key encryption, and it.
Check out our YouTube channel.
We have a whole webinar on this. Yeah. But no, I think that's the way to go. I mean, the passkey using either a fingerprint or facial recognition, something through your smartphone it's a great way to secure a system. And the fun part, it's easier. Because, I mean, Google actually did a study on this. I mean, it is 15% faster to log in with a passkey than it is with a username and password. And users, once they're used to it, like it a lot better. So like people aren't mad and you're not wasting tons of IT dollars resetting passwords, and like there's like an endless list of
I was
benefits
thinking
to it.
recently, our tagline is achieve nothing, and I want to apply that in every way I can, including logins. I don't want to have to type anything. I just want to look at my phone and have it unlock and use a passkey to get me into places.
No way. Perfect,
achieve
right?
nothing.
All right.
Done.
Okay, next one.
Train for vishing resistance. I know at LMG we do social engineering testing, and we have been doing more and more voice phishing tests. And it is surprising how many people in your organization just need that training and reinforcement. Because, you know, somebody calls, they're friendly, you're hiring people because you want them to be helpful, and they need to understand how to properly authenticate people over the phone. Or what's the opposite of authenticate when you figure out that somebody's not legitimate? De-authenticate?
Yeah.
Non-authenticate? I don't know. But training, including voice phishing in your training is key. I also think I would really like to see our society doing a better job at training for social engineering over Teams.
Sure.
Or Zoom or other SaaS platforms, because that's where the hackers are going. They're
whatever communication app
Teams,
you're using.
Communications and other SaaS platforms as well, not just voice.
Well, and it's funny when we talk about training for voice phishing, because I mean, one of the things that we usually tell people, similar to email, is that, I mean, if you get a phone call from someone with a really thick Russian accent or something like that, like maybe be a little wary if they're asking to reset a password.
Okay, but now we have deepfakes.
But now we have deepfakes, and now we have groups like Scattered Spider, which are largely U.S. based and very fluent in English, and we don't have that luxury anymore. So
I am excited because we've been getting requests for our first deepfake spear phishing test.
Oh, I love it.
I know, and I think
fun.
it's key.
Yeah.
Okay, number 3.
All right, so next we want to talk about abnormal data exports, and this can be a little bit difficult depending on the platform that you're using, but with Salesforce specifically, they have a system called Salesforce Shield, which can alert you to things like weird access or large data downloads or something like that. So if you have the ability to clock that and to alert if something like that happens, then, I mean, absolutely turn it on. Utilize that service so that you know if somebody does manage to get their way into that system, at the very least, you're aware that something like that is starting to happen. And maybe you can catch it before it finishes, or, again, at least you know that something like that was taking place.
You want to get an alert, and it is absolutely possible to do that with cloud platforms.
Yeah, a lot of them. Not all of them, but like a lot of them.
Yeah. Number 4, lock down your Salesforce instance. And really, you can apply this more broadly to other kinds of SaaS apps as well. I mean, a lot of people have the ability to install connected apps that don't really need it. So think about what you want your policy to be, because if that weren't allowed in these cases, then these companies would not have had to worry about data walking out the door. Make sure you're using the principle of least privilege, that people have the minimum privilege necessary to do their jobs. And if you remove privileges, it's not because you don't like somebody, you're not punishing them. It's just minimizing the risk for them and for your organization.
I have the same problem every time somebody removes one of my admin accounts on
I know
one
you
of the systems we use. I
cry
cry about it, but
bit.
but I understand why it happens. But
Totally, it's important.
It is.
Important. And also IP address-based restrictions.
That's
again,
handy.
when you're exfiltrating data, when you're exporting data, do you really need that to go to like Vietnam or Russia or other places, or is there just a very limited number of people that need to have access to that? It's usually pretty easy to narrow it down.
All right. Last, but certainly not least, rehearse rapid containment on your SaaS systems. If you need to be able to revoke something like an OAuth token, or disable an account or something like that, I mean, make sure your security staff knows how to do that. In Microsoft's M365 system, it's pretty easy to do. In others, it's not. So having that in your playbook, knowing the steps you need to take to do something like that, can be really, really important. And it's something that you should probably practice ahead of time. Like do a tabletop exercise on, if Salesforce is, compromised or something like that. Yeah.
Well, I like how you pointed out in our classes time and time again, it's not just about resetting the password. You have to kill active sessions. You have to revoke the tokens. Because hackers are moving beyond the password.
Yeah.
They're moving towards leveraging tokens, leveraging keys.
Well, and the Salesforce example,
passwordless-based authentication.
the Salesforce example we gave today is like a perfect example of that. They're not relying on a username and password to access. They're using it with an API token.
Right.
And that means that if you reset your username and password, that API token's probably still valid, so they can probably walk right back through the door at that point.
Yeah, so practice that containment and make sure it's baked into your incident response plans. So often we're focusing either on your network itself or on 365, and there's other platforms that we need to be thinking about.
Yeah, fair enough.
So with that, thank you so much for tuning into Cyberside Chats. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.